So I get a lot of questions asking me about my obsession with superheroes. If you go to my website, there's a lot of superhero related stuff, Star Wars, science fiction, comic books, things like that. I'm a big fan, safe to say. What a lot of people don't know is I do have a degree in religion. I graduated college with a bachelor's in religious studies, and one of the things that we like to talk about a lot are myths. And that's not a pejorative term, really. That's a word that we use to talk about the sacred stories of a given religious tradition. So there's the Jesus myth and the myth of the Buddha, Hindu myths, and you can get these all from their native sacred text. You got the Bhagavad Gita, you got the Torah for the Jews, and then you have the Holy Bible for the Christians, and so on and so forth. And then from there, if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, he related a lot of what he called the hero's journey, which is basically a journey of self-discovery, coming back and being stronger than you were and basically changing the world. He related a lot of that to the religious myths. And then those archetypes inspired things like Star Wars and other comic book heroes. Now, me personally, I like comics that have a good story. Not all of them do, but some of them do. My particular favorites are the ones written by Alan Moore and some of the older Frank Miller comic books. I really enjoy Batman Year One and the sequel, The Dark Knight Returns. Haven't read The Dark Knight Strikes Again. A lot of reviews say it's not nearly as good as the other two, so I just haven't read it yet. I also like the Sin City comics as well. But anyway, so within these stories, you get to see the hero's journey in action. And for me personally, the religious myths don't relate to me on a personal level as well, because they don't take place in my world. They don't take place in the world that I live in, the world that I see every day. However, the superhero stories take place in a world that I can relate to, that I can identify with. A lot of the events that are happening in these comic books, with the crime and whatnot, you can see examples of this in your own native city. So for me, the superhero obsession comes with the fact that these guys are human, and the fact that they are extremely relatable because they take place in a world that might not be exactly the same, but it's relatively similar. I'm sure we'll never have in Tampa, Florida, the cool architecture of Tim Burton's Gotham City, his vision of Gotham City, or even Christopher Nolan's vision of Gotham City. But we have a lot of the staples. We have big buildings. We have local newspapers similar to the Daily Planet and things like that. So they're extremely relatable, and I identify more with the hero's journey. And now, they also function on a very similar level to the religious myths. If you're familiar with the scholar Paul Tillich, he talks about the questions of ultimate concern, wherein the questions we have about life, why we're here, what our purpose is, all those good things are answered by the myths of these religious traditions. And you can read them and find it. Also, again, to me, not highly relatable. However, when I see humans becoming heroes in these comic books, very much relatable to me. It gives me a sense of hope and optimism for the future, and potentially could help me find a purpose in that way, much like a religious text. So yes, they are kind of religious in nature, minus the actual, I guess for some people there is a type of worship going on, but not necessarily for me. They're just inspiring stories that I like to read often. And the other cool thing about comics that you don't get with a lot of religious texts, they change with the times. If you read the current Spider-Man stories versus when they were written in the 60s, they're pretty different. And they also reflect the time they're being written. much like a religious text. The difference is the religious texts don't change as much. They do change, especially with different translations and things like that. But the comics definitely change with the time. We have, the X-Men. They were written at a time where discrimination was running rampant in our society, and they reflect that. So, yeah, that's why I like the comics a lot, and that's why I use it as a part of my marketing, and that's why I like to talk to people who enjoy the comics as much as I do, because I can relate to them and provide better information for them.